Welcome everyone to today's Rare Birds Mentor Lab, Money Meets Mindset. Why getting personal with your finance is your superpower. And this is the first session in our finance series. My name is Tegan and I'm the Partnerships and Community Manager at Inspiring Rare Birds. And today I'm joined by Fran Hughes, award-winning financial advisor, business owner and retirement expert. To begin, and in the spirit of reconciliation, Rare Birds would like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of country throughout Australia. And I would like to recognise the Awabakal people, the traditional custodians of where I'm broadcasting from today, and their connections to land, sea and community. We pay our respect to the elders, past and present, and extend that respect to all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people. For those of you who are new to the Inspiring Rare Birds community, our mission is to support and promote diversity and inclusion, where opportunities in entrepreneurship and leadership exist equally for everyone. We are best known for our mentoring programs, but we also offer a range of educational masterclasses. We host online and in-person events, providing people with the opportunity to build their networks and grow with the Rare Birds community. Now I'd like to introduce Fran, who with 35 years experience uses her knowledge and communication skills to educate and empower her audience. She's on a quest to bust the myth that you have to wait until the age of 65 to retire, having stepped into her own mini retirement. She is well respected and an active member of the community as the FPA Chapter Chair, Future 2 Foundation Ambassador, finance columnist for the West Australian newspaper, and regular finance expert on radio. In 2020 and 2021, Fran was awarded the FS Power Australia's Top 50 Most Influential Financial Advisor. Welcome, Fran.
Hello, everyone, and thank you, Tegan, for that lovely intro. Now, before I dive in, there are two things you need to know about me as a speaker. Number one, I love sharing amazing success stories, so do lean in. Number two, I want to be able to and focused on delivering value to you in today's session because you've invested your time to be here and I want to make sure there is a return on your investment. So if at any time questions do come up for you, please add it in the chat box or the Q&A box and Tegan will make sure that we answer it at the end of this session. So let's kick it off. So let's start with a big one. Ladies, I'm curious, why is talking about money still a taboo subject? Is it because of fear? Is it because of shame? Or is it the pressure just to keep up with others? Or maybe deep down, some of us are made to feel like we're not equipped to handle money. Well, that changes today. Today, it's about making those amazing changes so that you can shift towards being financially confident to take control of your money. So think of this session like breaking in a new pair of shoes. For me, it's high heel stilettos. It's tight at first, a little bit uncomfortable, but powerful once you learn to walk in it and stand tall. Let me just, and by the way, if I do kind of falter on the PowerPoint, please do excuse me. So let's move through. Why is it important that women own their finances? You know, when women own their finances, they unlock their superpower. Today, we're going to bust some myths around women and money. And the first one is about their superpower. That isn't just about managing budgets. It's claiming your space at home, business, and your finances and your future. Now, I want to share with you some numbers. So bear with me. Even write that down for the overachievers. 70% of discretionary spending will be controlled in the next decade by women, 70%. 3.5 trillion in generational wealth transfer is coming our way. By 2030, 2/3 of women will be in control of private wealth, not only here in Australia, but also in the US. So let me reiterate that. Something is coming, and we need to be ready as women to take on that responsibility. And today's session is about exactly that, taking on responsibility. So here's the catch. I wonder how many women feel confident about managing their money, even though we're more than capable. Why? Because the financial world was never designed, ladies, for us in mind. Let's think about that. Men started working, so the financial world was designed for them. Men also created the wealth and managed the wealth. So it was designed with their money personality in mind. So it's time to redesign the system from the inside out. Well, I did say I'm not great with technology, so bear with me. Now, let me move through a little bit more as far as why women disengage from their finances and what is the cost to us if we do that. Well, we all know that when women disengage with their finances, they actually fall short of their wealth. We've always talked about the gap. And so when it comes to their retirement nesting, they walk away with 25 to 35% less than males. Many female founders, and we've got a few of them here in the Inspiring Rare Birds, and if you're watching, I'm sure you would know this, but more often than not, we pay ourselves last. Whether it's got to do with the lowest income for the business, just to reinvest back into business, or we even decide not to pay ourselves superannuation. And far too many women also feel disconnected to wealth building potential. Let's think about, imagine that. They're disconnected to their wealth building potential. Is it to do with the fact that they don't know much about it? Is it the knowledge piece? Or is it there is a case of avoidance, that if I don't know about it, I just don't understand it, so I'm not going to jump into it? Let me tell you, that's because it's the stories we've been told about women, that this is the way we should be dealing with our finances. This is the way we should be creating wealth. They're the stories we've been told. But as females, we are designed a little bit differently. Now, I learned that at a very young age. You see, I'm the youngest of 6 children, daughter to migrant parents. When we moved to Australia way back when, Dad was working 2 jobs. Mum was, as most mums would be at that point in time, she would be a stay-at-home mum, not working. So the gap between her savings and Dad's savings was much wider. The gap between her super fund, or even the lack of, and Dad's was much wider. But imagine trying to feed 6 hungry mouths and growing at a rapid rate. Well, you can imagine the purse strings were stretched. And so for my mum and dad, who had sent me to a private school early on, at the age of 15, they had to really stop and say, well, actually, we can't afford to send you to a private school. We can't afford the school fees. And at this point in time, at the age of 15, what could I do? Could I accept defeat? The stories I've been told is that as a female, I couldn't possibly understand finances. As a female, I couldn't possibly take charge. As a 15-year-old, I couldn't possibly effect change. But ladies, I'm here to tell you that you can exactly do that. So for me, it was determination. It's funny, I was reading Brene Brown's book just last week, and she talks about the reckoning. The reckoning is at the point where you either accept defeat or you get really curious about moving forward. And so for me, it was, okay, well, in fact, what I could do is be really curious about these numbers. What I could do is work out what it will cost me to be able to fund my own schooling fees. And so I decided to go and get a job at the local supermarket, Coles, in fact. And I worked out that I had to work over the weekend, school holidays, to fund those school fees. What it gave me is determination that created action that created momentum, and momentum that created success. It helped me then get through high school. It helped me pay through university and go on to build 3 multi-million-dollar award-winning financial planning firms. And we don't do this for us necessarily just for our benefit. What we do as women, and that's why we're designed a little bit different, is that everything we do is for the greater good of our community, of the people we love, of the extension of future generations. So for me, it's all about what impact I can create moving forward. And for me, it was then going on to buy a house for mum and dad, making sure they had a comfortable retirement. And my girls who are in their 20s, well, they're financially independent now. And that's the ripple effect that you too can affect. So here they are, mum and dad, and the family. And today I get to do all sorts of fun stuff, like appearing on the Today Show, appearing on and writing for the West Australian, and being here at Rare Birds, inspiring, hopefully, this community. So where do we go from here? Well, today is about busting some myths. So there are 2 myths I want to bust. And the first one, as you can imagine, it would be women are not good with money. You've heard that before? Women are not good with money? Well, in my experience, I have seen women, okay, let's just bust this right now. Let's just shut it down. Ladies, you're great at budgeting. You're great at keeping records. You're great, by the way, at meeting those mortgage repayments. Why is that? Because if you don't, then the ripple effect to the people that you love will be far greater. And so for you, that's heart-centered, making sure that you align your money decisions around the impact of others, and also, to a certain part, to yourself. But traditionally, research shows that women make financial decisions based on the impact that they have, not only to themselves, but to the greater good of others. So that's not luck. That's strategic stewardship. It's been labeled responsibility. Now, whilst we're busting this myth, I'd love for you to pick up your pen and paper and write this down. I did say this is going to be quite an interactive session as well, so I hope you get some value out of today. So the first thing I'd like you to write down whilst we're busting this myth is that discipline plus time equals financial freedom. Let me just repeat that. Discipline plus time equals financial freedom. Ladies, you already have the discipline. You already have the discipline. And you might not think that you might have time, but let's think of an example here, if I may. So you've bought a home and you've been told that you need to pay this off, and the mortgage is over the next 25 years. And for the ladies in the room who are in their 40s and their 50s, chances are you've been paying that mortgage all these years, and in fact, you've come up the other side, and you've been very, very disciplined in making sure the bank gets the mortgage repayments each and every month. And today you've been able to pay off that debt, and now you've owned a home. But let me just also, I heard this saying the other day, and I thought this is so compelling, because income creates lifestyle, but your net worth delivers financial freedom. What does that mean? Let's think of your home that you bought maybe 20 years ago. You might have bought it for $100,000. What's it valued today? I remember when I bought my first home, goodness me, it was not in the 90s. And yes, if you remember back in the day, interest rates were something crazy, like 17%. And the median house price, and here in Western Australia, the median house price was about $70,000. Bought my first home back in the day, in the 90s. Take a guess what the value of that home is today. Yep, you've got it. It's $750,000, tenfold over 30 years. Now, the value of the property's gone up, the debt has gone down. So now I own an unencumbered property that I could use to generate income for me without me having to go to work. So what does that mean for you? It means that, ladies, you've already got discipline. Now you just need to allow time. And I want you to also leave a little gap between time and equals financial freedom, because I'm going to give you an insight as to what that third element looks like. It's what I refer to as a gap. And it might not be the gap you're thinking of. So leave that little gap for me, and I'll come back to it. So that's myth number one. Now, the actionable item that I want you to take away from this is this, that as an individual and as an individual who's seeking financial freedom, put your oxygen, you've heard this on the plane, put your oxygen mask on first. For so long, we have just been, forking out for others. But my encouragement to you is look after you first. And once you look after you, then you can be effective to the rest of your community, the people you love, the people around you, and the future generations. All right. So let's talk about busting myth number 2. Money is the only wealth. Did you know there are 5 types of wealth? Okay. So for those who've got a pen and paper, let's start writing it down. And you might not be surprised by it, but I'm going to rank it from 5 right through to number 1. And I bet you can't guess what number 1 is. So number 5. Number 5 is social. So social wealth. When we love being around people, but for those who like to be social, and if you're an entrepreneur, you will know this to be true. You like to be out social, you like networking. So that's what, the more you have the people around you that you love, your wealth gauge goes up. Then you've got your health. Now, when it comes to your health is important, and some would also rank that up high there, but I would say social, wealth. Now you've also then got time. That's number 3, time. What do you think number 2 is? And what would you rank number 1? For most people, they would think that number 1, when it comes to wealth, would be your finances. When finances actually ranks at number 2. Take a guess what number 1 is. It is actually your mindset. Your mindset will propel you to take action. Action will create momentum, and momentum will create success. So let's bust that myth of number 2, that money is the only wealth. That your first wealth is actually, and rank number 1 is actually your mindset. How do you think about money? The more you think, you kind of gravitate towards thinking about money, as far as what it does and what it can do for you, the more you will create financial freedom. So we haven't even talked about numbers yet, but let me kind of keep moving through as far as what myth number 2 is. Now, what the actual item I want you to take away from this is knowledge is power. If you did nothing today, except for tomorrow, you go out seeking the answers to how can you create financial freedom for you and what suits for you. And someone asked me the other day, what is financial freedom? How do you define it? Well, financial freedom is actually different for different people. If I think about there's digital nomads out there, well, all they want is income to cover their travel, so they've got freedom. And financially, they're free. If I think of business owners, they just want to be able to get their business running on rails so that they don't have the stress levels of running a business. I can feel some of you nodding. Yeah, wouldn't it be great if your business could just run on rails, generating an income so you don't have the stress of the day-to-day? So what does financial freedom mean to you? So the first thing is going out and using your knowledge. Knowledge is your superpower. You're part of the rare birds community. You're already taken that step. Use that superpower to now go and seek the right information for you. Understand how the little things work, and it doesn't have to be driven by necessarily numbers, but it's about what gravitates you towards achieving financial freedom. All right, so let's keep moving on. How we go for time? I've got so just to recap the 3 things I want you to take away from today. Step 1, your actionable item is discipline plus time equals financial freedom. And what that looks like is taking action. Remember when I just said there's discipline plus time, and then I asked you if you could kind of leave a little gap in between equals financial freedom? I want you to circle for me in that equation discipline, because you've already got that. Now, you've acknowledged it. You need to give yourself time. There is a third element in that equation, and that is investing. I can run a whole webinar just on investing, and that's the third element. Now, an example of how powerful investing could be, I refer to as the three bucket approach. So the 3-bucket approach kind of looks, and really quickly, because I know we're running out of time, but certainly when we can actually unpack it, we'll go a little bit deeper. But the first bucket is the now, the second bucket is the then, and the third bucket is your future self. Your future self, continue to pay your future self, and that's what we refer as retirement. So for most people, they also then look at the current bucket and go, right, I'm going to put savings aside. But ladies, here's the gap. What about the then? We always forget about the then. For me, I turned 55 at the start of the year, and I've always had the 3-bucket approach. In fact, my 2 girls as well, who are in their 20s, also have adopted the 3-bucket approach. And what that looks like for me, and also most of my clients, is that not only do they have cash to do what they want for holidays and gifts, and really be able to go out and socialize. But the second part is when you start investing and building an asset that continues then to generate income for you. That's what we call financial freedom. That's what it means to be able to start working from a day-to-day and be able to live on your assets. Now, number 2, knowledge is power. So if you're wondering, okay, that all sounds great, Fran, but where do I start? How do I get the information? Knowledge is power. So action number 2, go out, look at this. In this information age, there are a multitude of information out there, but find the right one for you. The action you need to take is just take small steps to find out what's right for you. And the third one, don't go it alone. Ladies, we are social creatures. We love doing it with other people. So find a buddy. Let me show you another story of an amazing friend that I've got, and the 2 of them, they're best friends. Now, they're in this different stage of their lives, whether they find themselves single and on their own. But here's the wonderful thing, is they're investing together. So what I mean by that is that both of them will go in to see their financial advisor and actually discuss everything. Now, they also then create that agenda for the financial advisor to explain to them what's going on and educate them on all those little things. So they've kind of ticked off the idea of knowledge is power. They want the advisor to be able to teach them about investing, teach them what it means, teach them about how tax affects things, teach them about whether it is index funds, mutual funds. Sounds a bit complicated, but that's knowledge is power. But they're not doing it alone. They're doing it as a buddy system. So I've got a gift for you, and I want you to, I invite you to make an appointment with me, because you don't have to go in alone. And by the way, I only ever work with 20 clients a year. So my book is usually closed. But speaking to Rare Birds, I've decided to open up my book to only five ladies. And so what that looks like for you is, if you go onto your phone and open up your LinkedIn account, find me on LinkedIn. Connect with me, but go one step further and book an appointment with me, because it's as easy as that. And once again, I say it's only limited to 5. Now, full disclosure, the cost is $495. $495. What you'll get from that is an hour with me one-on-one. I would typically charge more, a lot. Well, I'll typically charge a little bit more than that, but for you, it's only $495. Now, what you'll also get from that is a return on investment. So if I can guarantee you that I will find $495 worth of benefits in that hour with the hour power. If it's not you, by the way, if you're already on, I can tell whether someone's actually booked an appointment straight away. So if you're not taking action, I can see it straight away. But that's okay, because maybe you're thinking I can't really afford that. Maybe you're thinking, I'm not sure if I can take that step. What if I was to tell you that you could do it with a buddy? What if I was to tell you that we could do it over a glass of wine? Perhaps that might entice you to take that next step. Now I'm going on. What if I was to tell you one more thing? And that is, the proceeds from your fees will go on to help domestic violence. I don't call them victims, I call them community, because as part of my board position, I'm focused and committed to helping domestic violence ladies. What does that look like for you? Now, if you've gone through and you've listened to what I've just articulated, I wonder what showed up for you. And if you were to have a one-on-one with me, you will discover that what we just went through also will unpack your money personality. Because for the high achievers and the entrepreneurs, they want to know there is a return on investment. For the technical, they want to know, well, what would that look like for them, as far as what they want to know, the how. And for the socialites, they want to know, actually, would I be able to have some enjoyment with it? Would I be able to do it, buddy? So what is your money personality? I'd love to be able to discover that with you. Okay, so let's keep moving on. We've got some frequently asked questions. And now for the technicians in the room, we're going to go into numbers. So far, we haven't really talked much about numbers, but here we are. So the first one I get asked more and more often is, how much do I need? How much money do I need to retire? Well, there is a publication online, and I'll be able to give Tegan the link for anyone who wants to find out. But essentially, what it's saying is that the Association of Super Funds suggests that you need about 590,000 in your superannuation to retire, and that also assumes you don't have a home mortgage, so you don't have any debt. You've got 590,000. Now you're probably wondering, well, I don't have 590,000. Well, research shows as a household, so someone who's actually retiring today, so a couple who's retiring today would have, his would be about 430,000 and hers would be about 390,000. That's the average superannuation balance. And combined, you will have a modest but comfortable retirement. And what that looks like is that will generate about $5,000 a month tax-free. So $60,000 a year is what you need to be able to have a comfortable retirement. So they're the numbers: 590,000 in super and $6,000, sorry, $5,000 a month to be able to retire. How do I invest? How do I invest? Well, there are many, many ways to invest, but the rule of thumb is exactly this. The rule of thumb is, do you remember, if I go back to discipline, time, invest equals financial freedom. If you've got a longer period of time, don't be afraid to start thinking about growth assets within your super. In your super, you will have typically these kind of three types of classification. The first one will be conservative, the second one will be balanced, the third one will be growth. What I have found over the years as an advisor would be, if you're in your 30s, consider growth, because you're not going to be able to see it or access your funds. It'll be fully invested over the next 35 or so years. If you're kind of heading towards like in your 40s, you might want to kind of dial it back a little bit and consider maybe more of a balanced approach. And when you kind of moved into that retirement phase, not necessarily go conservative necessarily, but think about how much, and this is where you don't have to go alone. Find professional help to be able to work out those numbers for you. All right. How do I track my finances? Look, ladies, there's a whole heap of apps out there. In this information age, there's multitude of apps, and it just comes down to, it depends. What are you trying to track? If you're trying to track your super, you can go to the Money Smart website. It'll tell you how much you will need for retirement, and then you can compare that with your online super account. But otherwise, if you're looking just to save, your banks also have some amazing apps online to be able to just track and really make sure where your money is going. Now, with that, I'm going to stop right here, because I know that I'm hoping there's going to be some questions out there. And so I'm just going to check in with Tegan to see if we've got anything that we need to answer over and above those three.
Thanks, Fran. That was some great insights in there. And if anyone does have any questions for Fran, feel free to pop it in the chat or in the Q&A over there on the right-hand side. But in the meantime, Fran, you mentioned that you've retired in your 50s, which is amazing. What can you say to someone who is currently in their 50s but is looking to be in a better financial position?
Yeah, great. So this is where your superpower of your numbers comes into play. And doesn't have to be overwhelming. It doesn't have to be something that you would want to avoid, because in fact, if the cost of avoiding it in your 50s would mean that you're not going to reward your future self. And we all know that your future self is so important. Think back to even when we were 10 years ago, we're in our 40s. And if you think about where you are, how quickly 10 years has gone by. Today in your 50s, what actions you take today will ensure that your future self in your 60s will be looked after. So some things that you will want to look at. Where is your nest egg at? One of the key things around your super, that is your nest egg, is that, is it invested in the right area? Because if it hasn't had that power boost behind it, over the last however many years, you're going to want to have to adjust it and give it a little bit more of a power boost. And so reviewing your super, making sure the element of investment is looked after, fees as well. Is it in the right super fund? Because what you don't want is your balance to be, eaten up by fees. And the third part, what are you doing to boost it by way of contributions? If I go back to what I've just mentioned, and what we typically do as ladies is that we don't necessarily want to pay ourselves first, but this is it. Your future self will thank you if you start putting into your super.
So super is a big topic, and I'm sure we could talk about it, for ages and ages all by itself. But when it comes to understanding it, what are 3 key things that we should really take note of?
So what I would actually encourage is that have a look at your statement each and every year. And for most people, they do also have your super on your app, on your phone. There are 3 key areas that you want to look at. How is it invested? What fees are coming out? And the third part that most people also forget is the insurance costs. Superannuation funds do actually put in some automatic insurance, which is fine. But once again, as you move to your 50s, you might not necessarily need it, but you've got to establish those 3 key things. What is it invested in? What are the fees? And what's the insurance cost?
And you obviously have a say in each of those 3 areas when looking at your super?
Yeah, and it comes down to the different ages as well, as far as time. So someone in your 50s, you would typically look at the investment side and say, okay, where is it currently invested? And is it more in, and typical super funds would have it in a kind of a balanced approach anyway, for the most part. So have a look at, make sure that it is in an investment style that's going to give you a little bit of the boost. For the most part, in the past, when I've been reviewing super funds, I've come across accounts that have kind of been sitting in cash for the last 20 years. Cash paying more like, 1%, 2%. That's not a boost. That's not a power boost at all. Compared to, say, a balance fund that might have been returning more or boosting your balance more like an 8%, 12%. Massive gap. So really that's what I'm looking at when I'm looking at reviewing a super account.
Yeah, great. All right, well, there's been some great takeaways from today, so thank you so much for joining. And tell us what's next for you.
Oh, well, I've been on many mini retirements. This is my 3rd mini retirement. I remember the first mini retirement that I went on. My husband and I had been together for 30 years, so we decided to take 2 years off and discover 30 destinations for 30 years together, and that was that really opened up my eyes and made it wonderful 2 years. This particular time around, well, I'm an empty nester, so what that looks like for me is contributing back and being of service to others. And Tegan, I think we share this, but I think about when I turned 55, as a numbers geek, I calculated that I had 12,636 days left, according to life expectancies here in Australia. So for me, from here on, is living every day to make it count.
Amazing. I think that's good advice for anybody. On that note, thank you everyone for joining, and Fran, thank you so much for sharing your insights and your knowledge, and hopefully it kind of empowered some people to look into those areas of finance a little bit more. Please, we'd love to hear your thoughts as well. So if you'd like to fill the survey out at the end of today's session, you should see it pop up on your screen very shortly. We are also welcoming new members into our community. So if you'd love to get involved with the Rarebirds community, feel free to indicate in the survey or reach out to one of the Rarebirds team, and we're happy to have a chat and let you know what's going on. So thanks again for joining, and hopefully we'll see you at our next Mentor Lab session.